Hello and welcome. You're watching FII. I'm Sonal, Mehrotra, Kapoor. Now, COVID vaccine for kids, now a reality, at least in the United States of America, where the Center for Disease Control and Prevention has recommended expanded usage of the Pfizer-BioNTech's COVID-19 vaccine for kids between the age of 12 and 15 years. In fact, US President Joe Biden already has called it one more giant step in our fight against the pandemic. Now, this comes at a time when India and experts here have already started preparing for the third wave, and the warning is that it will be impacting kids the most. And here in the country, with over 150 million of them, India needs to get cracking on the COVID vaccine for kids. Now, I know there will be a lot of anxious parents out there watching this program with lots of questions. So only for today's episode, our phone lines are open. Let's flash that number on the screen also for you to dial in if you have any question at all. So take a quick screenshot of that and dial in every time. If you have a question regarding COVID and your kids, our panel of experts will obviously look into that. I'll just repeat the number for convenience at this point. It's 837708 8377. All right, and also there is still a lot unknown meanwhile when it comes to younger kids. Companies like Pfizer, Moderna, Johnson & Johnson, and now even Bharat Biotech is now working on trials. So we thought, let's familiarize you a little in the country about the process with which trials in kids take place and also who are the top contenders. First up, now recently Dr. Devi Shetty, the chairman of the Narayana Health, pointed out that we are likely to get the third wave, and there is a possibility that this third wave of the virus will predominantly target the children, mainly because adults are either infected already or immunized. So the COVID-19 virus has to find a new host, and the most vulnerable group in large numbers are children. He meant this for children less than 12 years of age mostly, and in India, remember, there are about 160 million already. So, what should be India's strategy? 3 words really: vaccinate, vaccinate, vaccinate. And at this point, in the vaccine strategy in the country, there are a few contenders. The vaccine has already been cleared for trials, at least in India at the moment, for Bharat Biotech. Recently, we'll talk about that in just a bit. But let's look at globally who are the top contenders. Contender number 1 for vaccine in kids is Pfizer-BioNTech. In their phase 3 trials in adolescents between 12 to 15 years of age, they found 100% efficacy and a robust antibody response, and also well tolerated. The study had over 2,260 volunteers in the US, and the dosing was the same as for adults, 2 shots, and each scheduled with 21 days apart. Now, at the moment, that means if you're a kid of over 12 years in US, you are eligible for a shot. But parents of younger children will have to wait. Contender number 2 for vaccine for kids is Moderna, very close to finishing off their trials at this point, and they are at that stage where they're evaluating the safety, the tolerability, the reactogenicity and effectiveness of their 2 doses. Again, the same doses that they're using for adults, this time 28 days apart. Now, their first candidate or participant to get inoculated was actually on the 16th of March 2021, and they're doing this study under the banner called Kid Cove, and more results are likely to come in the days ahead. But their base of trials is much larger than Pfizer. They plan and intend to enroll approximately over 6,750 pediatric participants, and they will take it beyond US. They will be trying it out in kids in Canada as well. Contender number 3, some good news here in the country. Bharat Biotech has started trials. Now, they have divided kids into 3 categories. There are kids between the age group of 12 to 18, then 6 to 12, and then 6 months to 6 years. And at the moment, the recruitment process is on. The entire process is likely to take at least 6 months' time, so we should 8 months' time, beg your pardon. So we should expect an update not before December of 2021. So there is going to be a bit of wait over there. But then the all-important question of side effects, what everybody is very anxious about. Well, the main side effects so far, same as adults, which basically include pain at the site of vaccination, fever, chills, fatigue, and all these particularly after the second dose of the vaccine. In fact, in Pfizer's trials, they had at least 91% of the participants experience some kind of the side effect or the other. So that's really what you need to know at this point when it comes to the vaccine trials and also those above the age of 12 in USA, which has been allowed now for Pfizer to come in. So let's look at that in a bit of detail. I have with me Dr. P.S. Narang, somebody who's very deeply involved in this entire process. So we'll be taking lots of questions from him on this front. We have Aman Gupta joining us, healthcare communication specialist. Now, with Aman, I want to basically understand how do we sort of bridge that gap of vaccine hesitancy, such an important question, especially when it comes to kids. So that's something we'll talk about. We also have Dr. Vikram joining us from London at this point. So some of the learnings over there, what are global trials telling us at this point, what is the need of the hour when it comes to kids? We'll understand that from Dr. Vikram. And Dr. Sanjeev Sinha, also with us, Professor for Medicine at AIIMS, also a site where all these trials in India for Bharat Biotech at least will be taking place. So very interesting to see what he has in store. In fact, let me take the first question to you, Dr. Sinha, at this point. What exactly are the preparations looking like? Last I checked with Bharat Biotech, they said their recruitment process is on. So just to ease out the parents at this point, because if you want a vaccine for kids, there needs to be participation, there needs to be trials. So what are the preparations at the moment looking like in the country?
So first of all, I would say good evening to all of your viewers. And I would like to tell that recently, yesterday, DCGI have given permission to conduct the trial in India for pediatrics age group between 2 years to 12 years, between 2 to 18 years of age. And as you have rightly said, they have divided 3 groups, like between 12 to 18 years, and then 6 to 12 years, and further down between 6 months to 6 years. So they are now starting trial between 12 to 18 years of age, and this is very important trial, and they are going to start this trial in 3 sites of country. One is All India Institute of Medical Sciences, New Delhi, and number 2 is All India Institute of Medical Sciences, Patna, and another site is Nagpur, Maharashtra. So this is kind of very important trial. And then they will do 2 phases, like phase 2 and phase 3 trials, and they will see the safety, immunogenicity, and what are the different kind of side effects, and what are the efficacy of the this vaccine.
Dr. Sinha, can I interrupt there for a minute for you to emphasize on what exactly will the process look like? At this point, I understand once you participate in a trial, there are blood tests taken at regular intervals to understand how the body is responding, etc. What is the process of even identifying participants? If you could just take us through that.
So, just I would like to tell you that DCGI have given just permission for this trial. So now we will start very soon this trial in 3 centers, and during as per protocol, we'll do all the investigation. Like in this trial, they are planning to enroll healthy population, and they will give the injection. Dose have to be decided, because in adult we give 0.5 ml of vaccine intramuscular. So we have to decide the dose. Generally, for example, H1N1 for H1N1 influenza vaccine, we give half dose of the adult dose in the pediatrics age group. So that we need to decide. And then we have to do required blood investigation at the interval as per the protocols, and other kind of investigation which are required.
All right, so the dosage will first be decided and then you'll figure out the rest of the details as well. Good luck to you. You've got some very important stuff at your disposal. So let's hope that goes off smoothly. Let me bring in Dr. Narang at this point. Dr. Narang, lots of questions really, but particularly when it comes to Pfizer, since that's the only study we really have, which has got clearance as well now in USA. They said 100% efficacy in kids. I was kind of wondering, how did that number really emerge and how is that so different from adults?
First of all, the kids have a very good immune system. And when we do the efficacy study, what we do is a double blind that, as you mentioned, 2,260 children were enrolled, and out of that, half of them got the vaccination and half of them got the placebo. And among the placebo, you check how many got infected. Just to make one thing very important, that before you enroll, you check that these are naive patients, meaning by they haven't had any subclinical infection or asymptomatic infection. Meaning by if they get the vaccine, whatever antibodies they will develop will be because of the vaccine.
So these are kids who've never had COVID, basically?
Never had COVID, and this is one of the enrollment criteria, because once you enroll, you have to make sure that they haven't been subjected to either kind of a COVID infection before. So as you mentioned, when I come to efficacy, you got two groups, one which is vaccinated and the other group which is not vaccinated. So of those not vaccinated, 1,089 subjects, they had about 16 cases of COVID, and those groups which were vaccinated till now haven't had any COVID infection. So that brings the efficacy. Now, efficacy this is an efficacy of around 2,000 children. Well, once it is done on a bigger level, then the efficacy study will depend on what kind of efficacy the vaccine has on a larger group. But considering the present efficacy, since the group which is vaccinated haven't had any infection after the vaccination, seems a promising result.
All right, so good details to have at this point. But let me bring in Dr. Vikram at this point. Dr. Vikram, the number of participants used for the Pfizer trial, just about 2,500 or so. Is that something we should be worried about?
Well, no. Thank you, Sonal, first of all, for having me on the show. I think that's a good number, given the current scenario where we know that the second and the third wave might actually likely hit children more. Relatively, you will see more children being affected because the adults have been immunized. I think sometimes you have to rely on the preliminary studies, such as short studies of 2,000 or 3,000 individuals. Of course, in science, it's always good to get bigger numbers. You have 10,000, 20,000 people. It gives you more confidence in the results. But we don't have time. Given the scenario we've seen over the last few months across different countries in the world, I think these are still robust data. Especially if you've got 2,500 children, you've had almost nearly 100% efficacy. That might become slightly low when you start immunizing in community, but still it's a fantastic figure. And with the side effects, almost no major side effect being reported. And if you take that data and also look at the adult data, you're kind of almost sure about the efficacy and safety of the vaccine so far. So I would be on the side to say it's quite a good number.
Okay, good number, but let me ask you the million-dollar question. What about variants? And what about what we've learned in our process of understanding trials so far has been that the time of the trial is very crucial because they test on the present variants at the moment. So we are basically talking about 617, 618, first discovered in India and else now found in several other countries at this point. What is this study telling us about those variants?
Yeah, of course, you will never be able to test a vaccine against all possible variants because by the time the actual dose is formulated and it's rolled out for the trial, you've already had the virus mutating further and having some more strains. And what I would like to reassure, though, is that the message has to go out that even if it's not tested against the new variants, what's coming across from whatever lab and animal studies that have been done so far is that there is some level of cross-immunity. So even if you had the original vaccines against the first strains that emerge and the vaccine manufacturers are trying to put in the new strains when they develop the next lot of vaccines, you are finding that they are effective. They may not be as effective as the original strain, but they will still prevent severe illness and death, which is the key target or key aim of these vaccines. So I would say that although, yes, we have not tested them exhaustively against the new strains, there is still good effectiveness of these vaccines against the current possible strains, and they should be rolled out as soon as possible.
Okay. I know Aman has been waiting, but when it comes to immune escape, I have a follow-up question. So let me bring in Dr. Narang at this point. Dr. Narang, so how important is it that when it comes to a population our size, kids in the country our size, younger population, maximum in the world really here in the country, that these trials are conducted in India on kids here in the country?
Yeah, very important. The trials, wherever the trials are conducted, the viral variant, as we know, that is changing. So the trial has to be conducted in the same geographical own country. And if Pfizer has to rule out, probably they may get an emergency license to use it in India, but still some trials in the post-licensing will be done, which will be helpful in knowing. As far as the variant is concerned, the variants are coming from the same virus. Some of the variants, they have checking, all those variants like Brazil, South African, there has been some immunity against them as well. But yes, in future, when the variants change...
Some immunity being the operative word here.
Yeah, but that will be helpful in bringing that probably not serious infections will happen.
Right, absolutely.
Will happen. But, in future, these vaccines will be updated or upgraded, because once, these variants are coming, and depending on, say, in another 6 months, such a variant which is not at present is there. So that variant's mRNA or that variant's viron particle will be included in the vaccine as per the vaccine technology is concerned.
Okay. Let me get in Aman in this discussion now. Aman, while we're all talking clinical, medical terms over here when it comes to kids, the biggest challenge perhaps, and why I wanted you to be part of the program today, is to get an insight into how big a challenge is it going to be to vaccinate kids in the country. Or for that matter, let's look at the present scenario. How big a challenge is it going to be to just get participants in India at a time when there is still vaccine hesitancy in rural India, mind you. In urban India, we are running from pillar to post, sitting on our CoWIN website, 24/7, refreshing to get a slot. In rural India, people still have questions.
So Sonal, if you just look at it, and just not COVID, if you look at vaccine hesitancy, it has been in India for a while. Even from the past, there are vaccines which people are preferring not to go with. There is a larger issue. Therefore, if you look at in the current situation per se, so science will do its part, but how do you communicate this science to the masses? How you demystify and showcase to them the relevance, that why they need to go against? That's where the, all stakeholders needs to come together. Of course, the government has to play its part, whether it's central or the state. So how do you make this as a campaign to make people to not just accept that they need to get it done, but also to champion the cause, because COVID is here to stay. We are not sort of...
Give me an example, Aman, because so far we've just had caller tunes telling us, get a vaccine, go to your nearest spot, but that's not working.
Let me give you an example, and I can give you an example, and we have had... So if you just look at the past from the polio, right? The polio as a vaccination campaign is one of the biggest public health success which we have seen, where India, I think for the last couple of years, is polio free. It did not happen overnight. It took concentrated effort where the government played its role. But besides the government, other stakeholders, so if you look at civil society, clubs like Rotary, the people in the community, media per se, each of them played their role to make it an effective campaign. I think that's what's really required here.
Okay, on that note, I'm going to slip into a break. We have lots of callers lined up, and on the other side, we'll get our panel to answer some of those questions. Coming back in just a bit. Welcome back. It's time to take some of our callers now, and we have Gaurav from Mumbai joining us. Gaurav, go ahead with your question.
Yeah, hi, good evening. So my kid is 5-year-old and we have a vaccine chart as every kid has. So there are two questions. One is that shall we continue the vaccination or it can be delayed looking at the COVID situation? And is there any other vaccine which can be put up the chart looking at the COVID situation?
Okay, two questions basically over there. If Dr. Narang can answer that, he wants to know if he should pause the current vaccination of his kid because there is a possibility, which I'm assuming is a flat-out no at this point. Do not do that. And he's also asking if the existing vaccines can be used for kids in emergency conditions.
Yeah, very right question. First of all, no vaccine should be delayed. If the child is well, if the people at home are well, our clinics are open for vaccination. And, you know, vaccine preventable diseases, if we try to see like pneumonia, flu, measles, all these diseases are so important and they have been the cause of mortality in our kids. And if we delay this vaccination, like we did that in last Ebola, the country came back with lots of more infection. So no vaccination should be delayed provided the child is okay. Coming to the second question, that what other vaccines need to be done? Yes, of course, pneumococcal vaccine and a flu vaccine. And if your child haven't had like measles, mumps or rubella, that also need to be done. So practically all vaccination scenarios should be completed, and pneumococcal and flu, if haven't been done, should be added to their vaccination profile depending on what age group they are. It is applicable to all age groups.
All right. So that's an important note over there. I hope that helped you, Gaurav. Let's take the next caller. This is Parki Mishra from Ranchi.
Hello.
Go ahead, please.
Hello. Sir, my question is that my 9-month-old kid got infected in the second wave. Perhaps I carried the infection from my office. And now we want to resume my duties, but I'm quite scared. I'm not sure his immunity is strong enough to fight against the infection if I bring it all over again. What to do? You may suggest some sort of test or anything of that sort for my kid?
Okay, Parki, I'm hearing a lot of anxiousness in your voice. So I hope this will calm down. So take a deep breath. Let me have Dr. Vikram answer that, please.
Sonal, I couldn't hear the question completely. If you could just repeat that for me.
So she wants to know that her 9-month-old baby already had COVID. What is the next step when it comes to vaccination, the general ones, and also in future, if it happens again, what should be her outlook towards other COVID vaccines?
Well, again, I think I would like to repeat the message just from my fellow panelist, is that yes, if the baby is well, if the child is well, and has recovered from COVID, which is what I hope sincerely, then of course you should continue with your normal vaccination program as usual. There shouldn't be any change in that. Similarly, when the actual COVID vaccines are rolled out for any babies more than 6 months old, that is more likely to happen later in the year, then you should go ahead and have the vaccine, because a natural immunity may not last beyond 6 months. That's what we have the guess at the moment. And so again, vaccine immunity might then boost the immunity further. So those two things will be important for this particular
scenario. All right.
If
I could just add, Parki, do consult your pediatrician on this.
Yes.
Of course, we are here to give you all the tips, but please go consult them. Every child is different, so please take their advice when it comes to these specific questions. For the moment, thank you all for joining us. It's been quite informative. We wait to see what the next steps are going to be here in the country when it comes to vaccine for kids. That's it for now. Bye-bye.